management of that situation. His wife stepped up to a microphone today, ending with a demand that Congress invite all of the Epstein survivors to come and testify about their experience, an event that would be Donald Trump's worst Epstein nightmare in Congress. And so in her way today, Donald Trump's wife took her place alongside other right-wing Trump voting critics of Donald Trump who have now become attackers of Donald Trump because of his rule. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, and former Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been using the language about Donald Trump's mental health that we have been using on this program for 10 years. Now Marjorie Taylor Greene sees the madness of Donald Trump. Now Marjorie Taylor Greene sees that he's out of control. And her ability to communicate that to Trump voters in a way that only Trump voters can communicate with each other is harming Donald Trump with his own supporters, and Donald Trump knows it.
How can any person that is mentally stable call for an entire civilization of people to be murdered, to be wiped out, to never come back again? That's what the president called for. And that shows that there's serious instability in his thinking, that he would, not only would he even say that in a private room, perhaps with his advisors, but actually go to his megaphone, his Truth Social, and post that for the entire country and the entire world. And it's unreal. This should never be tolerated. I know it's a very difficult, hard stretch to see it actually coming through, but the conversation needs to be had, and he's out of control, and people within the administration need to step up, take responsibility, and rein this in.
He's out of control. Trump voters can hear that from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She can get Trump voters to actually stop and think about that. And some Trump voters will stop being Trump supporters when they hear her saying things like that. He's out of control. That was 10:30 a.m. today. And as if to prove he's out of control, at 4:28 p.m. today, 2 hours after his wife called for all Epstein survivors to testify to Congress, Donald Trump issued a social media post attacking his former closest supporters, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying they all, quote, have low IQs, they're stupid people. And in a social media post that is 482 words long about Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump said, quote, nobody's talking about them. The President of the United States is talking about them. The President of the United States talks about them in his longest social media post of his entire war. And while talking about them, he says nobody's talking about them, proving Marjorie Taylor Greene's argument that Donald Trump is not mentally stable, not even close. And that's the kind way of describing Donald Trump's mental condition. And the same out of control, warmongering, war crime threatening, always incoherent rage poster Donald Trump said 415 words into his social media post, I no longer care about that stuff. That's what he said. So after 415 words of caring about it, Donald Trump says, I no longer care. It is now impossible for Donald Trump to not fail a public cognitive test every single time he writes one of these things. Every time. Your mind doesn't work if you write 482 words about 5 dear friends of yours who are no longer friends of yours, if you then say, I no longer care. Your mind doesn't work if you write all of that about them, and in the same statement say, no one is talking about that. The President of the United States is talking about that, right there. The man whose mind doesn't work is now struggling to restore the world to the condition that it was in before he started his war. If Donald Trump succeeds in his so-called negotiations with Iran, the Strait of Hormuz will be open, as it was the day before Donald Trump's war. Donald Trump's negotiating position is, let's pretend there was no war. Let's take everything back to the day before the war. That's his negotiating position. Iran's dictatorial theocratic regime will stay in place, as it was the day before Donald Trump's war, with a few new faces, but all the same objectives. Shipping traffic has not resumed in the Strait of Hormuz, although Iranian oil tankers are now passing through the strait so that Iran can sell its oil. The New York Times reports hundreds of ships remained bottled up in the Gulf on Thursday with only a handful passing. And Iran's new Ayatollah, the son of the Ayatollah Donald Trump killed, posted on social media today saying, "We will definitely take the management of the Strait of Hormuz to a new phase." To which Donald Trump said on social media, "There are reports that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be, and if they are, they better stop now!" Exclamation point. Or what? We will wipe their civilization off the face of the earth? Donald Trump knows, or should know, that the world knows that his threats are both insane and empty at the same time. His threats in the past have included actual war crimes. It is a war crime to threaten to annihilate a civilization. He's done that already. But his threats are also empty. He's proved that already. And so he might find it a bit harder now to threaten his way to acceptable positions with Iran. CBS News is reporting that several American soldiers injured in Donald Trump's war felt unprepared to defend themselves against an attack at the beginning of Donald Trump's war. CBS News quotes one soldier saying, "We moved closer to Iran, to a deeply unsafe area that was a known target," the soldier said. "I don't think there was a good reason ever articulated as to describe the degree of fortification," he responded. "I mean, I would put it in the none category. From a drone defense capability, none. I do think that telling the truth is important, and we're not going to learn from these mistakes if we pretend these mistakes didn't happen," one soldier said. There is nothing more difficult for a president to face and to try to manage than war. We have had good war presidents. We have had great war presidents like Franklin Delano Roosevelt in World War II. And we've had bad war presidents since then during the Vietnam War. And we all know the mistakes made at the presidential level during our 21st century wars in the Middle East. But none of those presidents were trying to manage a war in a White House that was out of control. None of them watched their wives step up to a microphone to say, "I've never been convicted of a crime," while they were trying to manage those wars. None of them had supporters from their own party, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying they should be removed from office immediately through the 25th Amendment, and none of them were dragged into wars, including wars they were losing, by a prime minister of another country. Here's what former Secretary of State John Kerry told Jen Psaki tonight about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu trying to convince a series of American presidents to go to war with Iran.
Yes, he wanted us to strike. He came to President Obama. He made a presentation that asked to strike. President Obama refused. President Biden refused. President Bush refused. The only president who has agreed to this, obviously, is President Trump.
The only one who agreed to wage war, the only one who agreed to wage that war, is the one who is out of control.